Hi, my name is Dr. George Hillman, Professor of Educational Ministries and Leadership here at Dallas Theological Seminary. And what I want to do over the next couple of moments is walk you through the IDAK assessment. This is an instrument that looks at your unique identification, and it's based on the premise of talents. So you're going to see three circles in front of you. You're going to see communication, relationship, and function. And what we're going to do is we're going to identify talents in each of those three areas. Think of this as a chemical formula. Water is H2O, and there's a chemical formula for water. You have a unique chemical makeup as well. It's made up of talents in these three areas. And what we're going to identify is one talent in communication, one talent in relationship, and one talent in function. And that combination of those three talents is your unique design. What you'll see next is that you'll see what we call the age 30 principle. I used to be invincible. And what happened over time is I discovered that my body just can't do what I thought I used to be able to do. I used to be able to pull the all-nighters. I used to be able to eat badly. I used to be able to just push through just on sheer willpower. But over time, our bodies actually do slow down. Biology tells us that starting at age 30, our cells start dying. A little bit depressing to think about that, but we do notice that after a while, around 30 to 35, we no longer can do the things that we physically used to be able to do. And so when you see the chart, what you'll see is the youthful passions. You know, if you're in your 20s, or remember when you were in your 20s, you could do anything if you were passionate about it, and even if you weren't really talented in it, you would just work really hard. But after a while, you no longer can just work really hard and get the same results. And for many of you who are in churches or ministries, and you start hitting your 30s and you start realizing, I'm not good at some of these things. And some of the things that are in my job description are not really good fits for me. So what happens in our 30s is that you'll see the path kind of divert. And for some, if they're in a poor fit, you actually start seeing a downward spiral, and they're frustrated with their ministry. They're frustrated with work. The things that they used to love, they no longer love. But if you are in the right context and you are able to use your talents, how you communicate, how you relate, how you function, what you're going to see is that by the time you hit your 50s, there's not even just a confirmation, there's really a mastery of your talents, of how God has wired you. And that's what we want to do. We want to help you discover how has God uniquely crafted you in how you relate, how you function, and how you communicate. So again, you'll see the three circles. So let's zoom into the communication circle. And what you're going to see is you're going to see 15 talents. These talents are clumped in three broad areas. One is using words, one is performing, and one is being artistic. The using words, here's how to think about the using words. This is the precise use of words, where you carefully choose the words that you're going to speak, and that you think through what you're going to say, what you're going to write. One of these is writing words. For some of you, you think about the words that you're going to put on a page. You love writing papers in school. You have great ideas for books. You see where it says clearly conveying information, moods, feelings through written words. And every word is carefully chosen. One of the things we'll talk about as we go through each of these talents is how some of these talents relate to church ministry. There's pastors, senior pastors, who are great wordsmiths. As you think of a Tim Keller, or you think of other pastors who write great books, they sometimes will use written word as their talent, but they will use it as a dramatic speaking type of thing, where they will basically manuscript and then read, or manuscript and then memorize their sermon. So it's not necessarily writing books or writing journal articles or writing blog posts. It could also be where you memorize a script that you've written and then you present it to others. Conversing. That's this right here. It's one-on-one, it's eyeball to eyeball, it's being able to carry on a conversation with another person. It's two-way communication. I speak to you and then I listen to what you have to say. Public speaking, preaching, this is what you stereotypically think of as what a senior pastor would do, with getting up on the stage and presenting a message. We're going to talk about later on about the difference about giving a presentation versus preaching. If preaching is your talent, you choose your words carefully. Every word, you know what you're going to say, when you're going to say it. So it says persuasively and accurately presenting information, mood, feelings through spoken word in front of a live audience. It's one-way communication. So I'm on the platform and I am speaking to an audience, but I'm not having the audience interact with me. I'm not taking questions and answers. You see at the bottom where it says this is the most preferred talent for a senior pastor if a church is interviewing for a senior pastor. Teaching is going to be different from preaching. With preaching, you are expressing an opinion. You are trying to persuade an audience. Again, it's one-way communication. With teaching, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the complex simple. You're presenting information. It's still a one-way communication in that you're standing in front of a classroom, you're presenting the information. It's usually in a formal setting. Again, we'll talk later about giving presentations or group moderation. This is what you think of a person standing in a lecture hall and giving a lecture with information they're trying to convey. And then the final one under the using words is broadcasting. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to do radio. That's really hard, where you are in a studio and you've got a microphone and you're trying to just carry on a conversation with an imaginary person who's not there. So this is different from conversing where I can actually see the person. So this is talking on the telephone, this is radio, this is doing podcasts, those types of things. And this is a unique talent that certain individuals have. The next clump of talents is called the being artistic talents, and you will see that there are 6 of these. And what I want to talk very briefly is about the artistic talents is some qualifiers. This is nonverbal communication. These are individuals that in their mind, when they think I've got to present information, they think I've got to visually present something. I've got to take pictures, draw drawings, paint. It's the hardest to discover because a lot of times this is a talent that's hidden. And even as you kind of see here, sometimes these are not the talents that are really represented well in school. Parents sometimes don't know what to do with artistic kids. With the artistic talents, there's going to be 6. One is designing. Let me read each one of these and kind of nuance the difference. Designing is expressing moods, ideas, and concepts through design layout. Graphic design, architecture, drafting, landscapes, precise drawings. So this is a person that will sit down with a CAD program or sit down with a piece of paper and precisely design where everything is going to fit, where everything is going to be laid out. Painting. Painting is expressing moods, ideas, and concepts through oils, pastels, chalk, but it's not detailed. Think about a Picasso. Think about, whatever artist you want to think about, where the colors are there, the moods are there, they're expressing it, but it's not like a precision architectural drawing or even a precise pencil drawing. Using colors and patterns. Expressing moods and feelings through the arrangement of colors, patterns, fabrics, textures. When this person walks into the room, they notice immediately what the colors are on the walls. What is the color of the furniture? And the decor actually speaks to them. If the walls are a bad color, they can sometimes actually feel sick, feel ill. Using shapes and forms. This is 3D objects. So this is the idea of moving furniture in a room. So couches go here, chairs go here. And you know individuals who can walk into a house and can rearrange the furniture, and all of a sudden you sit there and go, this looks so much better. And then using handicrafts, jewelry. This is woodworking. This is leather. And people will actually use this as a communication talent. So they're communicating mood and feeling through the actual use of handicrafts. And then the final one of the artistic talents, this is composing and arranging music. This is not playing music. This is not being the performer up front. But there's people who, how they express mood and feeling is they write a song. Some of those songs will have words. Some of those songs will not have words, but it still conveys mood and feeling. The final four talents are clumped together in what is called performing talents. And there's four of these. Number one is acting or impersonating. Let me read the description to you and let me broaden your view of what you think this one is. It says modifying behavior or attitudes to portray a character. Shift to meet the needs and adapt. It's contextual to fit the setting and it's key for missions work. If this is your talent, you're able to walk into a room and immediately know how to react. You're able to walk onto a stage and immediately know this is what the character would look like. So it says excellent for youth work. This is excellent for multi-ethnic churches. When you are doing missions work, you have to cross your own culture into another culture and you have to act differently. Eat different foods, talk with a different accent. You're going to dress differently when you're in a missions context. And this is actually one of the markers that shows if a person can do a great job in cross-cultural ministry. And it said down here it can be combined with the writing talent, the dramatic reading. So if you are that person who has maybe a writing talent in this, again, you would write out your manuscript and then you would act it out. You would have different voices as you're presenting this. And that's always a good test for this of if you have children and you're reading the children's book, do you change your voice based on the character? Singing, playing an instrument. So the other talent that we talked about earlier was writing the music. This is the talent of actually performing the music. And this is a talent and that is used wonderfully in a church. So it's being able to perform in front of an audience. Group moderation. This is being able to sit people in a circle and to facilitate a group conversation. So this can be a small group. It says usually standing or sitting in front of the group. So this could be a small group in a house. But you know that's a great talent. It's different from preaching. It's different from teaching. It's being able to answer questions and to guide conversations. And the final one is giving presentations. This is actually mine talent. And this is the idea of you get up in front of an audience, you know the general outline of what you want to say, but you want questions, you want interruptions, you love to chase rabbits in a class. And it's different from preaching and teaching. So, for example, in my own life, I much rather enjoy teaching in a room where people can ask questions and people can interrupt me. I love the interruptions. So the difference between preaching and teaching, if you're preaching or teaching talent, you really don't like the interruptions. You want to get through your content first, then you'll take questions afterwards. If yours is giving presentations, you want the questions. You build the questions into your presentation. So those are the communication talents. Let's talk about relationships. There's going to be 3 relationship talents. So again, remember our formula. We're going to pick something out of the communication talent pool. We're going to pick something out of the relationship pool. And you'll see 3, multi-relational, familiar, and singular. Multi-relational. This is a person that can walk into a room and very quickly establish trust within minutes. They're excited to go out and meet new people. We'll talk later about the difference between singular and multi-relational. Multi-relational people go out to meet new people. It says hate sizing up people. Here's what it means. It means that you will always take people and think the best of them. You're not going to question a person's motives. You're going to think this person's your best friend. You're not going to sit there and analyze, do I want to be this person's friend or not? And this is about 15% of the population. This is a great talent if you are in a larger church or in a growing church because there's always new people. I'm going to give you a real quick personal story. This is my talent. Why do I love working at Dallas Theological Seminary? One of the reasons why I really love working at Dallas Theological Seminary is that there's always new people. I get bored sometimes with the same people. And so I love working at a school because I always get new people. 70% of the population is what is called familiar. This develops trust with repeated contact. It's going to take a couple weeks, a couple months to bond in this relationship, and the relational bond increases over time. As you continue to meet with people, you get closer and closer with those individuals. But if you're familiar, you need a home team. That's 15 to 20 people that you always come back to and always connect with. This is a great talent for any size church. It can be the large church. It can be the small church. growing church, the church going through conflict. And this is actually, again, what most people, population-wise. The final one is singular. Do not think introvert versus extrovert when you think of singular. This is not the same thing. Singular, though, means that when you like working on a project, you like working by yourself or maybe with one or two individuals. You don't want a big team. You just want to be able to do your work. Singular, it's going to take years to bond because you want to go deep. You do not like superficial relationships. You want to go deep and you want to create trust. These are lifelong friends. If you are singular, you probably have a handful of friends that you've been friends with for decades. You probably have kept up with your friends through elementary school and high school. People come to you as the expert. Remember I said multi-relational, you go out to see the people. If you are a singular relational person, doesn't mean you can't be a senior pastor, but you're going to be an expert and people are going to come to you. Think about a college professor. Think about a seminary professor. You have office hours. You are the expert in the classroom and people come to you to seek the advice. I have some things mentioned down here. It can be as a senior pastor, but you have got to have a strong preaching talent to go along singular to make it work as a senior pastor. The singular is not going to like the church in conflict, and it's sometimes harder to be in the smaller church, ironically, unless the pastor is well known. Again, I'll mention somebody like a Tim Keller, who probably has a writing talent and probably has a singular talent. And he has an incredible ministry, but he's developed an expertise that people actually come and seek out. Here's the core question as you think about these relationships. When you meet someone for the first time, do you automatically want to be his or her friend, or do you size him or her up to see if you want to be a friend? I am multi-relational. I want everybody to be my best friend the minute I meet them. If you're familiar or if you are singular, you want to size people up. You want to make sure before you put all this energy to invest in a person, are you going to, is this person worth the investment? Here's a chart to kind of describe it. So you see depth of relationship on one side, you see time spent together. For multi-relational, it starts really quick with the depth, but then it caps out. Did I tell you I get bored with people? And you're going to know all my sin secrets. If you're in my small group, I'm going to tell you my sin secrets. I'm an open book. But then after 6 months, I'm kind of done. I've shared everything there is to share, and I'm ready to go meet new people. You see the familiar, it takes over time, but then the familiar, it keeps growing. You keep increasing your depth of relationship. Same thing with singular. Long, slow, but super deep as you progress along. So multi-relational, familiar, singular, it's an awesome conversation to have as you're working through your IDAK. The final is function. This is the task, and you're going to see clusters, and there's talents within each of these clusters. This is actually what you do or what you talk about. So communication is how you communicate. You're either going to use words, perform, or be artistic. Relational, you're going to be singular, familiar, or multi-relational. But what do you actually do? Well, you do one of these things under function. And what I want to talk about is some of these individual talents, but then also talk about the relationship between some of these talents. So one cluster is what you see here of organizing time and personal space. And there are two that are listed here of setting times and priorities and ordering of workspace. Setting times and priorities. This is, can you multitask? Can you be productive with your time? You lay things out. Here's a great marker for this one. Do you always turn your assignments in on time or even early? If this is your talent, you will always turn stuff in on time because you hate to be late. This is the most preferred functional talent by employers. They want to have people who turn in things on time and are able to multitask. There's also ordering of workspace. You read the description here. Here's a great description to kind of talk about this. If I went to your garage, would everything be in its proper place? A place for every tool. If I went into your craft room, would everything be laid out perfectly? If I was to look on your bookshelves, would all the books be organized? It's having the right way to do it, and you're going to do it the same way every time. This person loves tradition. It has a thing down here, not good for youth work. You can naturally see why it wouldn't be good for youth work. Being creative is a little bit different than the organizing of personal space and time. And there's 3 talents here. This is about new ideas. So creating, this is new associations. It's constantly experimenting. This is a person that wants variety. They want change. They're going to be the person that always is going to ask why. Why are we doing it this way? Why are we doing it that way? We'll talk about a change agent. A change agent is different than a person who wants change. And this is the opposite of ordering. We'll talk about that in just a second. This is an excellent talent for youth ministry because you never know what's going to show up there. But this is a talent, if this is your talent, if this is your bent that you like change, and let's say you're interviewing with a very traditional, a very established, a very structured church, you're going to butt heads there. So bring these 2 things together. Ordering workspace, creating. These are absolutely polar opposites. Now, sometimes on the score sheet, a person will score high in both of these, but you cannot. You will be one or you will be the other. The ordering workspace, you do it one way every time because that's the right way. Creating, you're going to do it different each time. Here's the distinguishing factor between the 2. Let's say you're going to grandma's house, and you know the right way to go to grandma's house. It is fast, it is efficient, there's less traffic, and you just always go the same way to grandma's house because that's the best way to go, and that's the way you've always gone. Or do you go to grandma's house and you think, well, I want to try this road this time, and I'm going to try another road next time, and we're going to go out of the way, and we're going to do, that's creating. Ordering workspace or creating. If you have either one of these talents, it's going to be the polar opposite of the other. Another one under the creative cluster is imagining. This is the person who thinks incredible ideas in their head, theories, and they daydream. They have entire stories in their head. They're able to create these elaborate fiction pieces. You put this together with writing talent in the communication. This is your science fiction writer. And for some of you, this is an incredible talent where you're able in your mind to create worlds. To be able to share that with others through communication is a great thing. And then there's inventing. This is the person who goes in the garage and invents new tools, new gadgets. They're experimenting. They're going to try to do things better. You are in your kitchen and you're going to always be building, always be improving. You're going to have a recipe for your favorite dish, but you're always going to try something different with it because you want it to be better the next time. Supervising talents. We're going to talk about supervising versus helping talents. Supervising talents here, what this means is this is a leader of leaders. This is a person who oversees other leaders and oversees a variety of different ministries. And this is actually 25% of leaders. We'll talk about single team leaders, which is going to be 75% of leaders. This is a multi-team leader instead of what we call an influence leader or a single team leader. Influence leaders. Let's go back to the Tim Keller example. Tim Keller is that pastor scholar. You read his books, you listen to his podcast, and that's what he does really well. His job is not to oversee multiple staff and multiple teams. He has other people on his staff. He has an executive pastor and other people that do that. He's a leader, but he's a leader by being a leader of influence, or a single team staff. This is if for that individual who says, I just love shepherding people. I want to have a church where I know everybody's name. This is the person who makes incredible small groups pastors. That's what a single team leader is. What we're talking about is multiple team leaders. So this is essential for a senior pastor of a church over 350 people, unless you have a really strong executive pastor. And why is that? Well, because if you get 350 people and you're a senior pastor, you don't know everybody. And so you either become that scholar pulpit, but you've got to have somebody to run your operations, or you want to be that single team leader and you want to be at every event and you want to be involved in everything you possibly can, and you can't. Each one of these that we're getting ready to talk about is mutually exclusive from each other. And if you have one of these three talents, one of these supervisory talents, it really does dominate everything else for the rest of your functional talents. So one of the supervisory talents is the initiating, the developing. And I'm going to use jungle animals to describe this. This is the lion. This is the person that's always on the move. This is the person that comes into an organization, doesn't like what they see, and they stir things up. This is the change agent that we talked about earlier. They cast a vision, they recruit to the vision, they actually hold people accountable to that vision. If you are a church planter, you got to have this one. If you feel called to be a church planter and you do not have this talent, you need to have somebody with you. Do not plant a church unless you have this talent yourself, or your number two person has this talent, because you've got to have this for a church plant. You've got to have this for the entrepreneur. You'll see at the bottom, this one gets bored every 2 years. So every 2 years, this person's got to have something new. And so some of you have this talent and you get bored. You start something new, and after 2 years, it kind of loses your interest because you want to start something new. Lions are always on the move. Giraffes, they're the planners. They are the folks who look long ways into the future. Projecting into the future, this is the person who's going to schedule the details and the sequence. How are we going to get from point A to point B? This person is going to be slow moving, but again, this is a person, this is not a single team leader. This is a person who is overseeing multiple staff. So this is like the executive pastor. They get frustrated with lions. If you are a lion, sometimes you want to buck the system, and the planners don't like you doing that. But if you have a large church, you have to have a planner, a giraffe. The final one is the managing talent. This is the elephant. This is me. I'm an elephant. Think of the elephant. I want to make sure the herd is taken care of. Everybody's got food. Everybody's got water. Everybody's being taken care of. And I'm trying to coordinate the efforts of others so that pieces don't fall through the cracks. Like I said, giraffes don't like lions. Elephants don't like lions either, because again, lions come in and change everything up. I'm an elephant. I'm trying to put a system in place to make the lion be successful. Again, this is another one that's going to be essential for a large church, 350 or more. And again, this is going to be an executive pastor talent. Again, let's talk again about the single team leader and the multiple team leader. Single team leader, that's 75% of leaders. That's not these three talents. It's not the lion. It's not the giraffe. It's not the elephant. This is either the expert, and I'm going to use some sports analogies. Sorry if you don't like sports analogies, but this is the expert coach who the players follow. This is a basketball coach, and usually what happens is that this person's the resident expert on what the players do. Basketball coaches many times have been basketball players, and they know how the game is played, and so they were a good basketball player, and now they've become a basketball coach. All of the members on the team, they follow the leader, and everyone on the team knows what everybody else is doing on the team. Those teams need leaders. That's a single team leader where you have a group that's under you that has a unified vision and you're moving forward. The last three we just talked about, the elephant, the lion, and the giraffe, these are multiple team leaders. This is more of, think of the football coach. You're a head coach and you've got other coaches, but the other coaches are doing the job. I played football in high school. I didn't play every position. I was an offensive lineman. I don't know how to coach quarterbacks. I don't know how to coach the defensive backs. I knew my place. A head coach is going to be the same way. They didn't play every position. They're going to know their position, and they've got to bring in other people that are experts in those fields, and they're going to supervise those other people that are experts in their field. A lot of times the multiple team leader is more of a generalist. They know a little bit about everything, but they've got to bring in experts who can actually run the youth ministry, the children's ministry. This person's trying to harmonize and blend different people. So again, imagine a senior pastor who is a multiple team leader. He's got to make sure the youth minister is doing his or her job, the children's minister is doing his or her job, the women's ministry, the men's ministry, all these things are competing for one another, and this multiple team leader has to take all these competing factors and make sure they're all on the same page, dealing with competing interests on the team. Another set of talents is using your body, your hands, your fingers, and we'll go through these pretty quickly. Some of you, I'm just going to be real honest, are incredibly talented physically. You were great, and you were a great athlete. You probably, if this is your talent, you probably still actively play sports. You actively run, you actively swim, you actively play intramurals. It's physical coordination. This is a person, if this is your talent, you can't stand sitting at a desk for more than an hour. You've got to get up and move. You've got to have windows. You've got to be outdoors. This is a great talent for youth ministry. Arm-hand coordination. Think of this from a standpoint of being able to swing a hammer, to do large motion between arms and hands, coordination. This is playing golf. So it's a little bit different from a physical talent. Not saying golf's not a sport, but hand-arm coordination is you're able to swing a hammer, swing a golf club, and it's able to work appropriately. Operating driving, kind of an ironic one. You know, some people love driving in the car. I kind of noticed this one. I always want to be the person driving. I enjoy driving, and there's people who love flying airplanes. There's people who love driving cross country. This is actually a talent, using pedals and levers. Some people even say some of this with keyboard and mouse, some of this can be driving. Think of this as drones. You're driving something, but you're driving it, through a remote control type of thing. And the final one is hand-finger coordination. Remember I talked about hand-arm, that's big motions. This is little tiny motions. Did you like building models when you were little? Fine detailed painting, those types of things. That's the hand-finger coordination. Helping talents. Remember I talked about supervisory talents, and I talked about how they're going to be different from helping talents. Helping talents, this is the bulk of folks who are in pastoral ministry. This is at your church of 300 people or less. This is the shepherd giver. You know every single person in your flock. Sometimes this is not the best person to get the project moving because you're too busy taking care of people. You're too busy loving on people. Sometimes you need a lion or an elephant or giraffe in the mix to help get the project moving. But this is my shepherd who just absolutely loves loving on people. This is my counselor. If you have a helping talent, you look for the marginalized. You look for the underdog, and you want to help take care of that person. Tutoring. That's a helping talent. That's sitting down with an individual one-on-one. Many times this is a person maybe with a learning disability, or they are not understanding information, and you're going to be patient with them and you're going to tutor them through the information. Being of service. This is the person who automatically gets up and says, how can I help? Let me move the chair. Let me come to your house and help clean up the garage. Counseling. Counseling is where you sit with a person, you listen attentively, but you're not necessarily going to solve the problem. You're just sitting there and listening, but people come to you. And the easy question to ask is to ask that of, do people come to you with their problems? That's a counseling talent. Reassuring, supporting, it's kind of like counseling, but here's the difference. Reassuring, supporting is you go out to people. This is the counselor who makes rounds at a hospital or even like hospice care. You identify with another person's hurts. You want to encourage, you want to comfort, you want to support. Again, you're not solving the problem. You're just there. You're just loving on the person. That's what the reassuring, supporting talent is. So I wanted to show these two differences of the supervisory talents and the helping talents. Most people who feel a draw to pastoral ministry usually have a talent in one of these clusters. You could have a talent in both of these clusters, both the supervisory and the helping, but sometimes you feel a tension between those two. If you lean more towards the supervisory talents, again, that's going to be you want to have a faster moving church. You want to have new people. You want to be on a mission. You want to be accomplishing stuff. If you lean a little bit more towards the helping talents, it's all about pastoral care, and you want to make sure that people are being taken care of. Great, healthy churches have both people. Intuitive. This is making gut level decisions as a talent. There's two of these. One is character discernment, where you are an individual who, as soon as you meet somebody, you just kind of naturally know, can I trust this person? I'm amazed. I do not have this talent. I'm amazed at people who have this talent, that they can come in and accurately assess another person. Is there a dark side to this talent? Yeah, there is. Sometimes you could be judgmental in the sense of you are reading this person, and you're probably true. It's probably true what you're thinking about this person, but this person's saying, how'd you know this about me? And why are you already judging me before you've gotten to know me? This is a powerful talent. And for you as a leader if you don't have this talent, you need to make sure you have somebody on your team who does have this talent. Making future projections. Gut level, you just kind of know, here's what's going to happen in the future. We're in a presidential election year this year, and you're a person who just loves making predictions about what's going to happen in the election. You knew the fashion trend before it ever became a fashion trend, the music trend before it ever became a music trend. You just kind of know in your gut that this is what's going to happen in the future. And actually, this is one of the most rare of the talents. Another cluster is persuasion, and there's going to be 3 of these. Negotiating. This is a person who can come in, take two parties that disagree with each other, and negotiate a peace between the two of them. It's settling disputes between people. I am absolutely amazed with people who have this talent, that you can take two warring parties and you're able to just find a common denominator. Selling. You've met natural sellers. You might be a natural seller. You are a person, you've always been able to sell stuff to people. In a church context, I don't want to say it's equated, but a lot of times evangelism kind of is this as well. You have no fear. You will just go, you believe in what you're saying, whether it's a product or whether it's Jesus, and you have absolutely no fear. You love talking to people. This is great for fundraising. This person, you just want to get out of their way. It's another rare talent. Promoting. This is a person, it's going to be different from selling. The promoting is just you get excited about something, you want to tell other people about it. So you went to a restaurant that you just loved, and so you'll post something on Facebook about this restaurant, or you'll tweet about it. You're not trying to convince a person and selling them and closing the deal. You just want to tell people about this. Again, this is another one that's great for evangelism. And this is one's helpful for youth work on how do you get the word out. Observing details. There's some talents that are clustered here with observing details. Observing physical environment details. This is a person who notices everything. They notice the scratch on the car. They notice the rust on the furniture out in the yard. They notice the small flower. I'm oblivious to those things. But a person who has this talent, they notice the details. They notice the small rock formation. You've got observing printed details, documents. I probably have some typos on this. You already caught them because if this was your talent. You see a piece of paper and you immediately know the typos. I have a good friend that I think it looks perfect, my document, and he can go and get his pen and he can mark these things, and spacing of letters and all those types of things. Observing in 3 dimensions. Remember we talked about the precision drawing back as one of the communication talents? This is a person who can see a blueprint, can see an aerial map, can see a topographical map, and in their mind, they visualize it. I look at a topographical map and it doesn't make sense to me. I know it's supposed to be elevations and things like this. If you have this talent, you look at a topographical map and the mountains just pop up at you. It's a cool talent if you have it, or you know somebody who has it. Using numbers. Gosh, I wish this was one of my talents, but I'm not a numbers guy. But some of you are. Calculating numbers. You can just add up numbers really quickly in your head. You love budgets. You love financing. One of my dearest friends at my church, he has got this talent where he just loves numbers and he can think numbers. And if you're not gifted in this, if you're not talented in this, you've got to make sure you've got number of people around you who are. Or recording and auditing, being able to keep track of things. This is, think of like working in a warehouse, being able to, books on a shelf. I need somebody who has a talent that can help me organize these things and can help me catalog these things so I can retrieve them later. Problem solving. There's going to be 2 talents in this cluster of problem solving. One is mechanical, troubleshooting. If this was your talent, you were the kid that took your bike apart when you were little. You took the lawnmower apart because you wanted to see how it works. If you have this talent, trust me, people show up at your garage saying, hey, could you fix this for me? Then there's solving problems. Remember we talked about counseling and we talked about reassuring and supporting. Counseling and reassuring, supporting is not necessarily problem solving, but if you have that with problem solving, then you actually want to sit down and actually give the person advice. So a person comes in and says, okay, I think this is happening. You're able to say, oh, let me tell you exactly what's happening. You need to do this, this, and this. It's thinking logically. You want to find the source of the error. So some of the dark side of this, remember we talked about character discernment, that had a dark side. It's going to be the same one with this. Of you walk into the room, you hear the person, you already know what they screwed up and how to fix it. It's a neat talent if you have it. It's needed for discernment of staff hires and leader selections. This is the person's problem solving. If you have the problem solving talent and you are a pastor, you are going to dive in so deep in your sermon prep because you want to find out everything. Sometimes this might not be the best talent for youth work because youth work is moving too quick and you're wanting to stop down and solve the problem. But again, this is great in conflict. If you have this talent, you're able to sit down with individuals and say, okay, let's get down to the root cause so that we can fix things. Researching, investigating. This is a person who loves looking up websites and books and articles to find out what they want to find out about a topic. They're going to read, they're going to do computer work, they're going to go visit, they're going to go interview people. Again, if this is your talent in your sermon prep, oh wow, your sermons are going to have so much richness because you're going to investigate all of these different topics. Remembering. I'm amazed with people who have a remembering talent. They remember everything. They remember names, they remember numbers, they remember facts. They don't have to write anything down. Classifying. A person who can take all of this diverse information and classify it and clump it together. You love putting together reports. You love putting together photos, recipes, so that you can have quick and easy retrieval. Reasoning, contemplating. There's going to be 3 talents in this. Analyzing to understand. This is the person who is the lifelong learner. You love school. You love classes, and if you really have this talent, after you get done with your seminary degree, guess what? You're going to probably go and study something else. You study diverse topics. You just want to learn. It's not trying to solve a problem. You're not trying to fix anything. You just want to learn about World War II, or you want to learn about botany, or you want to learn about how to build things. Again, you were probably the kid that was always asking why. One of the things you see down here of just a danger with this talent is sometimes a person who has this talent, sometimes they are so in the clouds, so academic, that sometimes people in the pew are like, okay, are we ever going to use this information? Again, sometimes maybe not as great of a talent for youth ministry work, but it's a great talent if you have this talent. And again, you're a great person to talk to if you have this talent. Appraising, estimating. Have you ever met those people who just know where to find a good bargain? They know where to find a good bargain on a used car, where to find furniture. They're able to walk into a garage sale and they know exactly what everything should cost. I have a good friend. This is what he does for a living. He's an estate planner, and he'll walk into a house, the person selling the house and all the contents, he knows immediately what to price everything. It's amazing when you see this guy do this. Synthesizing, again, bringing all these parts together. This is going to be somebody who loves writing reports. If you have this talent, you love the research part of writing your paper. Making decisions, you've got two. One is quick reflex action. This is the person who jumps into an emergency, life and death situation. You love the adrenaline rush, and you just come in and you fix what's going on. This is the talent of a paramedic or a firefighter. A lot of times, maybe people who have a military background. You're always the first person on the scene in an emergency, and you're the person always scanning, looking. And then the final one is taking risk. We talked about, let me just go backwards. This quick reflex action, this is physical. Taking risk, this is a person who doesn't mind taking chances on the stock market, taking risky ventures, capital investment ventures. Nothing illegal, please hear me with this, but you kind of like the risk element. It's not physical in nature. You're making future investments, projections. So again, this is your chemical formula. You're going to find something how you communicate, something in how you relate, and something how you function, and you're going to put those three together to come up with who you are uniquely. As you think about this, I want to just kind of wrap up with just showing you two slides. One is that there's no job that's perfect. What you want to be able to do is find some place where 60% of the time you get to communicate, relate, and function the way God has created you to. Every job, no matter how much you like it, there's going to be 40% of the job that you don't like doing. Focus on the things that you can do and find the best fit for you where you're able to use your talents. It's kind of your sweet spot. And then as I kind of wrap up, I have pictures of houses. This is actually pictures my daughter took on a recent trip when she went to San Francisco. She is an artist. Her communication talent is artistic expression. And I think she's a pretty good photographer, by the way. But do you see all these different houses? Each house is unique. Each house is different. You're unique. You're different. How you communicate, how you function, how you relate, that is your house. Some of you have big mansions. Some of you have townhouses. Some of you have apartments. But everybody has a house. And what we want to do is find out what is your house, and then we want to put that house on the right piece of property. And so if you have a townhouse on 10 acres of land, it just looks odd. It doesn't fit. A townhouse belongs in downtown New York City or downtown San Francisco in these cases. If you've got a big ranch-style house and you've got it on a small piece of land, it doesn't fit either. What you want to try to find is where does your house fit on the right piece of property. And if you've ever bought a house, when you walked into that house for the first time and it was the right house on the right piece of property, you knew it immediately. That's what we want to help do. How do you communicate? How do you relate? And how do you function? If you've got questions, I would love to have interactions with you. Please don't hesitate to shoot me an email, to give me a call here in the office. I love this IDAK assessment, and I'll look forward to unpacking it with you. Thanks. Have a great day.